Hello everyone, welcome to Tennis Fan Video. Alex Eala's Stuttgart Open campaign has come to an end at the very first hurdle. On Tuesday, Leylah Fernandez comfortably defeated the Filipina 6-1, 6-4 at the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart, Germany. Fernandez had to fight through some nerves towards the end of the contest. She led Eala 5-2 in the second set, but was pegged back to 5-4 and found herself at 0-30 on her own serve. However, Fernandez quickly maintained her composure, winning 4 consecutive points to close out the match. Following the contest, Fernandez revealed what her coach had told her while 0-30 down in the final game of the match. Leylah Fernandez's coach said Alex Eala would not go down easy. "Honestly, it's what my coach told me at 0-30, 5-4, Fernandez said during her post-match interview as broadcast by Sky Sports. He said, "She's not going to go down easy, as you can see. She's going to fight. You're going to have to take the match." So I was glad that I trusted him and I trusted the training that we'd done. So happy to get the win here. It was an excellent performance by Fernandez, who has struggled to find her best form at the start of this year. The Canadian served 3 aces during the match, one of these being at 30-30 in the final game, and won 71% of her first serve points. Leylah Fernandez's projected path to the Stuttgart Open title. Round 1. Defeated Alex Eala 6-1, 6-4. Round 2. Jasmine Paolini or Zeynep Sönmez. Quarterfinals. Elena Rybakina. Semifinals. Iga Swiatek/Mira Andreeva. Final. Coco Gauff/Alina Svitolina. The former U.S. Open finalist also converted 4 of her 8 breakpoint opportunities and won 61.5% of points on Eala's second serve. "It was definitely a very, very high performance," Fernandez said. "I'd say 7 out of 10. It was 8-9 out of 10 until 6-1, 5-2. But, there's always that little lapse of concentration. I'm just glad that I stayed positive as much as possible, and of course the crowd helped me, so thanks, John." Fernandez will move on and play 5th seed Jasmine Paolini or Zeynep Sönmez in the Stuttgart Open second round. Eala, meanwhile, has now lost 2 of her 3 clay matches this year after reaching the Linz Open round of 16 last week. Eala will now look ahead to the Madrid Open, which begins on April 20th. Leylah Fernandez says playing Alex Eala was like competing against a mirror image of herself. Later in the on-court interview, Fernandez was asked whether playing Eala was like competing against a mirror image of herself. Fernandez and Eala are both excellent left-handed counterpunchers who enjoy playing fast-paced tennis. "Oh man, 100%. It was like playing a mirror image," Fernandez said. "I remember watching her play a couple years back at the Rafa Nadal Academy, and she was playing super fast, and I remember telling my coach at the time, wow, she plays quick. So it was like a mirror because, as you said, it's exactly like you. So just enjoy, figure it out, and have fun. She's not going to go down easy." What Leylah Fernandez's coach said about Alex Eala that changed the Stuttgart match. The Porsche Tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart was supposed to be a routine opening match for Leylah Fernandez. On paper, the Canadian was the higher-ranked player, the more experienced tour competitor, and the early favorite. But what unfolded inside the Porsche Arena revealed something far more tense, far more human, and far more revealing about the rising Filipina star, Alex Eala. It was a match that began like a statement of dominance. Fernandez came out firing, racing through the opening set 6-1 with the kind of controlled aggression that has defined her WTA rise. Her forehand dictated rallies, her return game pinned Eala deep behind the baseline, and within minutes, the scoreboard looked like a one-sided story. But tennis rarely stays that simple. In the second set, Alex Eala began to shift the rhythm. She wasn't overpowering Fernandez, but she was absorbing pressure, extending rallies, and forcing errors from the Canadian's racket. The crowd noticed it too. The match was no longer slipping quietly toward an ending. It was stretching, tightening, and beginning to breathe again. Fernandez still led 5-2 and looked ready to close it out. Yet what happened next would bring the match to its most revealing moment. Eala broke back. Then she held serve. Suddenly it was 5-4. The momentum, fragile but real, had started to tilt. Inside Fernandez's box, tension rose. This was the stage where matches are either closed out cleanly or dragged into chaos. And that's when the voice from her coaching team cut through the pressure. "She's not going to go down easy. That was the message Leylah Fernandez's coach delivered to her at the critical moment, 0-30 down while serving for the match at 5-4 in the second set. The words were not tactical in a technical sense. They were psychological. A reminder. A warning. Fernandez later revealed the moment in her post-match comments, explaining that her coach urged her to accept what was already unfolding in front of her. Alex Eala was not fading. She was fighting. And she was going to keep fighting. That single sentence reframed everything. For Fernandez, it wasn't just about closing out a match anymore. It became about surviving a surge of belief from an opponent who refused to disappear. For Eala, even in defeat, it was validation. The message from the opposite box, not even directed at her, confirmed what her own performance was already saying. She belonged in these moments. The turning point that almost was. At 5-4, 0-30, Fernandez stood 2 points from being dragged into a full momentum collapse. Eala, meanwhile, was 2 points away from forcing 5-5 after trailing by a set and a break earlier. The atmosphere inside the arena tightened. Every rally felt heavier. Every serve carried consequences. Fernandez would later say she trusted her training and reset mentally in that moment. What followed was decisive. She won 4 straight points, shutting the door before the match could extend further. 6-1, 6-4. But the scoreline alone didn't tell the story. Why the coach's words mattered more than the score. In elite tennis, coaches often speak in patterns. Serve placement, return position, tactical adjustments. But sometimes, they speak to something more dangerous than tactics. Doubt. She's not going to go down easy wasn't about Alex Eala's technique. It was about her mentality. And that mentality had already been visible. Eala had been broken early in the first set, but she kept trying to extend rallies instead of rushing errors. She absorbed the pace of Fernandez's forehand and slowly started redirecting angles. Even when down 5-2 in the second set, she didn't collapse. She pushed the Canadian into longer service games and created pressure at 5-4. The coach recognized it before the scoreboard fully reflected it. That's why the message mattered. Because at that level, matches are often decided not by skill alone, but by who believes longer. A match between two mirrors. What made this encounter even more compelling was the strange symmetry between the two players. Both are left-handed. Both built their games around counterpunching, speed, and tactical intelligence. Both have Filipino roots. Fernandez through her mother, Eala as a proud representative of Philippine tennis. Even Fernandez herself admitted she had watched Eala before and saw similarities in their playing styles. She described it as like a mirror. That made the match feel less like a clash of strangers and more like a collision of parallel careers at different stages. One already established inside the top 30. The other still rising through the ranks, but already capable of pushing higher-level opponents into uncomfortable territory. Eala's growing reputation in defeat. Losses in tennis can still reshape narratives. And for Eala, this Stuttgart match did exactly that. She didn't win, but she forced a seeded WTA player to pause, rethink, and respond under pressure. She created a moment where the opposing coach felt compelled to warn his own player not to underestimate her fight. That detail alone speaks volumes. It suggests that Eala is no longer just a promising name on the draw sheet. She is becoming a player opponents must actively manage emotionally as much as tactically. And that is often the difference between rising talent and established threat. Fernandez's final execution. After the scare at 5-4, Fernandez closed the match with composure. She held serve, weathered the pressure, and sealed the win in straight sets. But even in victory, the tone afterward was not dismissive. Fernandez acknowledged the difficulty, praised the fight, and admitted the match tightened far more than the score suggested. That acknowledgement matters too, because elite players rarely give credit unless it is earned. What comes next? For Leylah Fernandez, the win advances her into the next round with confidence, but also a reminder. Matches cannot be taken lightly, even when the scoreboard says otherwise. For Alex Eala, the result is another step in a learning curve that is becoming more visible with every tournament. The key takeaway is not the loss, but the pressure moments she created inside it, moments strong enough to trigger warnings from the opposite coaching box. Because in Stuttgart, one sentence revealed everything. She's not going to go down easy. And in that moment, even in defeat, Alex Eala proved it true. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like and share. Till next time.